What can you say about Nicole Shaffer? She is a beautiful blessing that truly wants to see others win. Let me share a little bit about Nicole. As an active community advocate, Nicole currently serves on the board for the York City Dollars for Scholars, is the co-chair for the Confronting Racism Coalition, is the past chair for YWCA's York's Racial Justice Committee, and is a founding board member for Braided River Collective, among numerous other community commitments. Nicole is also a volunteer for Junior Achievement and the Girl Scouts, where she has gone into local schools to teach the importance of resume creation, interview skills, understanding credit cards, and building a strong credit history. We gotta teach them young. As a lifelong champion for women's issues, Nicole is passionate about connecting women to opportunities to help them take charge of their financial future. During her time leading the Her Tradition Initiative, she has led the expansion of their scholarship program to include women in the trades through a partnership with the local chapter of the National Association of Women Construction. Nicole is currently managing a pilot program. Well, actually, no, not anymore. Let me skip to that. Please give a warm welcome and get ready to be further empowered. Nicole's presentation title is Align Your Values Before Talking Money. Give it up for Nicole Shaffer. Align your values before talking money.
I threw Jen for a loop. I mean, I know we all have recognized her today, but putting together events like this is never, ever easy. And about a week ago, I had a change in my position. Working for community banks right now is a tough time, and they did some restructuring. And I sent Jen a text, and I said, hey, when you get a chance, you give me a call. Jen, she was picking up on those vibes. She was like, it's a week away from the event. She felt something was wrong. She said, everything gonna be okay? I said, it will be. So we talked, and I told her about the change. And I said, you know, I'm still down to be here if you'll have me. She said, girl, we could not be happier to have you. Because what this event is all about, it's not about the positions we hold, you know, the different titles that we might have, but it's about pouring into each other. And I was here last year, and I left being poured into. And I knew even if I wasn't speaking, I'd be coming today because I needed poured into, and you all have poured into me already. So thank you so, so much for that. Today's conversation, talking about money, it can get a little heavy, right? Because there comes a lot of shame when you talk about money. We all have made mistakes in the past, things we wish we could take back. We all have felt those judgments. But that shame, those judgments, that's what's holding us back from sharing our knowledge, from growing and expanding what we know, from opening up and being real with one another. So I want to name that today and know that today we're not talking about like best practices, what to do, what not to do. I might touch on a little bit of that, but you can get that information just about anywhere. Today we're gonna dig deeper to how you can get to the real causes and have more productive conversations. But before I get started, I just want to think about, like, when you guys talk about money or when you don't talk about money, why do you not? What are the things that hold you back? What don't you like to talk about? Just yell it out. The lack of it. I hear a lot of lack of it. Budgets. Oh, because when you hear budget, what do you think? Yeah, what you can't do. What you can't do. No one wants to be told what we can't do. And I'm glad that we're starting off with that kind of energy because, you know, what we need to do is flip our mindset. Not focus on the lack of, we need to focus on the abundance in our lives. We need to not focus on what we can't do, but what we can do. And I will say that when it comes to talking about anything, that effective communication begins with the ability to listen with empathy. So I'm going to say that again. Effective communication begins with the ability to listen with empathy. You'll see how I'm not saying anything about talking. It's not about talking. Effective communication is more so about listening and taking the time to not think, how am I going to respond? What they're saying might be wrong or that you don't agree with, but listening to that person, how they feel. What are they telling you that you might not have realized before that could improve the conversations going forward? But even before you go into that conversation, if you want it to be truly open and truly effective, you have to do some deep work yourself. You're going to have to do a deeper dive and see what is it that you have to work on about you, not just surface level stuff. Because if I say to you, hey, what are the troubles that you're having with money, you're probably going to give me a quick answer. But if I told you to dig deeper, why? You might have to take a minute, right? And you might have to think about that for a while and tell me what that why is. And I might prompt you 2 or 3 more times, why, every time you give me an answer, until we get to the root of that issue. This is a process, I will tell you. It takes time. I recommend journaling. Don't think you're going to sit down and go from point A to point Z all at once. Journaling is great. Meditating, anything where you have space to think. But what I would say is go back far. Think about even as a childhood. What are the things that you saw happening with money that left an impact on you? And you might not think there's a connection, and that's okay. Just write everything down, any memories you have at all. Just start trying to capture it. And as you start to look back on some of those memories, think about, is there any connection to your actions today? And how you can take that and dig deeper. So because I'm encouraging you all to be prepared to share, when in your conversations that you're having, I'm going to share myself how some of this impacted me when I did this exercise. So if you would ask me what's one of my challenges with money, I would tell you for most of my life I've had this fierce need to be independent. And you might think, okay, so what? How's that hurting you? Like, what else is deeper than that? What are you really afraid of when you say you need to be independent? So I went deeper, and when I really thought about what the fear was, it is that I am truly afraid of having to depend on someone else to take care of me. It is probably one of my greatest fears, that I need to rely on someone else to take care of me. And when you think about that, you're thinking, now how is this impacting your money? How is this impacting that knowledge? Well, when I'm leading with that fear, that fierce independence, I'm hoarding knowledge. I'm not opening up to anyone. I'm not telling them what I'm doing. I'm keeping it to myself because I don't want them to have to get involved. That means it's not giving us a chance to dream. It's not giving us a chance to collaborate. It's not allowing me to learn. I can't learn from others because I'm not telling them what I'm doing. That is a lack of communication, a lack of knowledge sharing. It's shutting things down. So when I started thinking about this for myself, where did some of this come from? Let's go deeper. Why do I have this fear? I started looking back on some things in my life. Now, my parents, my dad had his own business. My mom stayed home with us, and that was their choice. That was their plan. They planned that together. However, my dad controlled all the money. And when I mean controlled, I mean controlled. Every week, when my mom would go to the grocery store, she would have to go and ask him, may I have the grocery money? And he always made it a big deal. He was always exasperated, always made it like he was giving her this, that she was taking it from him. Every week this went down. And that caused my mom to have even more behavior of hiding things. So she would keep like extra change then. She wouldn't tell him about it. And she would store that off to the side so that she thought by doing this, she was giving herself some independence. And I saw this as a child. I could see this dynamic going down. And don't get me wrong, like I had a great childhood and I love my family, but they were repeating the same cycles that they saw, right? They saw the same thing with their parents and their grandparents, and they weren't breaking that cycle. They weren't working together. They weren't talking about what was really going on. They were both acting out of their fears, and it was creating a spiral. So even as a child, I started to know, oh, this is not for me. And in my childlike state, I do not remember saying this, but my mom insists that I did. She said, Mom, when I grow up, I'm not going to be like you. I'm going to be important. I'm embarrassed to share that with y'all because, like I said, I don't remember saying it. And I know I didn't mean that my mom wasn't important because my mom did everything for us. But I meant that I didn't ever want to have to be in that position. I didn't ever want to have to be begging like that when, that's something that they should have been doing as a family. So I started on with my life, started real good, graduated college, got my own place, doing everything myself. Felt good, right? Independent. As life would have it, life likes to humble you. I got into a relationship, and it was an abusive relationship. Mostly emotional. There were a couple times it got physical, but mostly it was just the threat of it was enough. The threat of that blow up. The threat of him screaming and yelling and throwing things and breaking things, especially in front of my boys. It had me walking on eggshells all the time. And to make things worse, at the time, I got my first pregnancy, I got unexpectedly pregnant. Happens to all of us, right? Well, I guess not all of us, definitely not some of you. But I had a job at the time that was very focused on business development, and they wanted me out all the time. I was out on the evenings. I took clients out on the weekends. And the moment I announced that unexpected pregnancy, they were like, oh, no, you are just not going to be able to do what we need you to do. And they let me go. So there I was, pregnant with a very controlling individual, and I no longer had access to any type of independence and in forms of like financial independence. And I shut down. It went for a good number of years where I continued to raise my boys, but I slowly faded away. My family would say to me, where's that girl that's always so outspoken, so independent? I became a zombie where I would not speak up at all because all I wanted to do was avoid those blow-ups. All I wanted to do was just have peace, not realizing that that desire for peace was creating an even bigger war within inside myself. So finally, I did make a change. I did find the strength to move on. And I was able to get my independence back. And I think all that happened for a reason. It showed me grace, how things can happen to absolutely anyone, no matter how hard you try and plan for it to not happen. It also showed me you can find a way back. I did some things right. I luckily never blended my credit with his. I protected my credit, so I'm thankful for that. But I had no savings of any kind. And now I was older, and I had 2 young boys. But you can move forward. You can rebuild, but nothing happens without a plan. It does not happen without a plan. And part of establishing what that plan is and having that effective communication is knowing your values. Your values are a core part of who you are or who you want to be. And I would say that if your life matches your values, that's when you're going to be at your happiest. If you're out of alignment, at best, things feel off. At worst, you're deeply unhappy. So aligning your values can be helpful for a lot of decisions in life, not just your finances, but it certainly can help with that too. So if you've never done that exercise, again, I know it feels like I'm giving you a lot of homework today, but I promise you all these things will be beneficial. If you do the journaling again, go back in your life. Think about when you were happiest. Think about the times that you were the most proud, when you were just overall content. And write those times down. Remember them, note them. Even if you think there was nothing special, nothing out of that you could put your finger on, capture those moments, just journal. What you're looking for then, when you look back at those times, is you want to see, were there any values that were of prominence? Now, if you've never captured values, if you're like, I do not know what she's talking about, no words are immediately popping into your mind. Things like community, openness, balance, achievement. Just Google it. When you Google values, you'll get an endless list. It'll be overwhelming almost. But don't feel overwhelmed. It's just a jumping off point to help get your creative energy going and to think. And the other thing I'd say is don't feel like you have to pick out certain values. So we all judge ourselves, right? And you'll start to see all these terms on the paper, and you're like, oh, achievement, like that's something really good, right? Everyone should be focused on achieving. Don't do that to yourself. You are wonderfully and beautifully made, each and every one of us. The biggest thing that we bring to the table is our uniqueness. So embrace your values. Embrace what truly speaks to you. Those words that make your heart sing, embrace them. Don't go with a woulda, shoulda, coulda. Go with your authentic self, because when you're not living your authentic life, that's when things are really going to feel out of alignment. So I will say, taking the time to define your values is the first step. And don't limit yourself then. Make a whole list, however many come to mind. From those times when you were happy, all the words that come into play, capture them all, because you don't want to miss anything at first. But then you are going to have to do some hard work with narrowing them down. Now, I'm the kind of person, I hate it when someone says to me, oh, what if you could only pick one food, or if you could only pick one place to go on vacation? No, you are not making me choose. Like, I'm not limiting myself. I am not picking. I like all the foods, all the places. So, yes, I think we all do. But this is important to narrow down, and I'll tell you why. Because there are going to be times in your life when you're going to have to make decisions, and you're going to have to pull on different values to make those decisions. So if you do the work up front to say, this is my core set of values, these are the 3 to 5 values that help drive my life, guide my decision making, then when you come to those tough decisions, you can reflect on that. It's kind of like your strategic plan for life. What does my strategic plan say? And you go and you pull from that. Doesn't mean those other values aren't important. They're all there. But it helps you when you're struggling and making a decision. So once you've prioritized them, I want you to also think about financial values. So when I say financial values, everyone has differences as far as like risk tolerance. You might be a spender, you might be a saver. And again, don't judge yourself. Don't think, oh, I should be a saver, being a spender is bad. It is not. It is not. It's knowing who you are and finding a way to work within that. All of that's important because it's going to help guide your conversations. So when you know what matters to the person who you're talking to, and when you know what matters to yourself, you're going to be able to adapt the conversation better. If you're talking to a saver, use the term budget. They love it. Yes, let's talk about a budget. If you're talking to a spender, please don't use the word budget. You are going to shut that conversation down real quick. But if you say, hey, I was thinking about, let's work out our spending plan. Spending plan? Oh, well, I like to spend. Okay. I'll talk about spending. It's the same thing. It's just a different expression. But it makes all the difference in the world because then that person feels like you're not trying to control them. You're working with them. You're dreaming together. My husband is also fiercely independent. So I guess when we first started to talk about taking this deeper dive into our finances, we were both resistant. I don't want to be micromanaged. I don't want to be told what to do. Neither did he. The deep dive, which is where you take the time to sit down and say, okay, what are we spending? Where is it going? Put it into all the different categories, whatever categories work. What's coming in? That's your knowledge base. That gives you the information to make decisions and say, A, is this aligning with my values? Like and again, some people, if you go to a professional, they might say, hey, you're spending too much on entertainment. But if one of your primary values in life is experiences, then you can say, this is higher on my list, and we need to find a way to make this work. I'll take from other areas because this aligns with my values. And if the person that you're talking to doesn't get you or wants to continue to give you a cookie-cutter approach, you're just talking to the wrong person. It has nothing to do with you. We all have dreams and visions, and there is someone out there that will hear you and see you, and they will help you build a path forward. So don't ever feel bad. Too many times we walk away from that conversation feeling shamed, feeling like, oh, I didn't know enough. You were just talking to the wrong person, and there are plenty of people to talk to. So keep that in mind. And also, if anyone tries to charge you up front to have a conversation, That's also not your person. You should sit down with someone who can, you know that you connect with them, that you're aligned, and you can work together, and then talk about what that structure looks like, if there are any fees involved with that. But when Chris and I did this, it was great because we finally, the other thing I will say about doing that deep dive in a relationship, what do we all do? We start to make some assumptions. I'm doing this. I'm doing everything. What are you doing? You know, we start to think, I, when we don't see what the other's doing. So my husband makes more money than I do. And he definitely had the mindset that he was doing so much more. We are a blended family of 6. Our grocery bill, it is almost a house payment. He had no idea. No idea. The other thing is, even if you aren't bringing any financial contributions to the table, capture the other contributions you're bringing. If you are cooking, if you are providing caregiving, if you are cleaning, all of those come with a cost. If you're not doing them, somebody else would have to be paid to do them. Capture those as a value too. It builds appreciation. Without you, these wouldn't happen. When we got together and saw everything together, it really opened his eyes to how much he was relying on my contributions as well. It also allowed us to dream together. So Chris was always the one that would be like, why does so-and-so have this? How are they going there? What are we doing wrong? Well, you know what? Things don't happen without a plan. That's just not how life works. You need a plan for how to get there. So when you do the deep dive, when you have that open conversation, when you can say, hey, when we talk about things, know that these are pain points for me. It helped him understand why I am with some things, why I need to have some sense of control. He lets me then be in charge of the savings because that gives me that security that I need. It's still our money. I know that, but it makes me feel safe and secure, and that doesn't bother him at all. He doesn't care about that. Things like that you can do to find what's a win, and then you can move forward together. And so we were able to dream, and we were able to say, hey, here's where we can take from this and this and put it here instead to make this dream happen. So I want to tell you guys the most important thing is, you know, how you talk to yourself and each other. I can't stress that enough. In fact, my friend Diaz just posted that the other day. We need to start talking better to ourselves. And I cannot emphasize that enough. It really affects how we act and energy. So think about that. Don't beat yourself up for bad decisions. Don't beat yourself up for things that might have happened in the past. Focus on the future and how you can move forward. Focus on those action steps that you can take. Take the time to dig deeper, to get that alignment, and to find the true you. Make your choices based on your hopes, not your fears. So many times we are afraid of what is going to happen. What's going to happen if I don't pay off this debt by this time? What's going to happen if I don't have this saved by this time? That negative energy, that's going to wear you down. And when you get worn down, whatever, when you're worn down, you tend to shut down. So focus on your dreams. What is it you want to see make happen? And keep working towards that goal. If you don't know where to start, I recommend you talk to the other people in your life. Start with either your local community banks or credit unions. There are financial advisors available. There's online resources. Just start reaching out. Don't fall into that trap of feeling overwhelmed or feeling like, I won't ask the right questions. I'll be stupid. Again, there are no stupid questions. The only bad thing you could do is not getting started. So at this point, I basically would like to close with one final thought, and that is, don't punish yourself for past mistakes. Don't limit your future self because of past actions, and congratulate yourself for every little step you take. So if you walk away from today and you start to journal, or you reach out to someone and make a connection about your finances, or you start to work on that deep dive budget assessment, you have done something powerful for yourself, and you should reward yourself for that. Thank you.